Get out of the car! Quickly! Who do you think you are, talking back to me?" The officer's shrill, ferocious, and contemptuous shout shattered the quiet of the deserted suburban street at dusk. It was followed by the cold, metallic sound of him yanking the Glock from its holster, cocking it, and pointing the black, menacing barrel at the black man sitting calmly behind the wheel of the luxury sedan. The man in the shiny black Mercedes S-Class furrowed his bushy eyebrows, a hint of annoyance crossing his usually calm and elegant face. He had just been stopped by a police patrol car suddenly and for no reason on a remote suburban road, lined with rows of old trees and cornfields stretching as far as the eye could see, with almost no one passing by. The policeman, with a badge on his uniform that read Harding. His face was red. He smelled of cheap alcohol. He looked like he had had too much to drink before or during his shift, trying to fabricate a ridiculous traffic violation so he could demand an on-the-spot fine from him. "I repeat, I have not committed any traffic violations." "Officer," the man said, his voice calm and clear, though he was beginning to feel a vague unease. "And your request that I pay the fine directly here, without any intention of issuing a ticket, is completely against the law. This action of yours could be considered corruption." The man's straightforward, well-mannered, and legally savvy words seemed to have lit a fuse on Officer Harding's already explosive powder keg. He was not used to being lectured like that, especially by a black man, someone he considered scum of the earth. Harding violently yanked the man's car door open, then used brute force to drag him out of the car, not giving him a chance to react. He then pushed him down, forcing him to lie face down on the dirt, gravel, and weedy roadside. How could this police officer act so aggressively, brutally, and abusively in the middle of nowhere? Was the black man really as innocent as he claimed, or was there something we didn't know? And most importantly, who was he that he dared to confront a police officer who was in a rage and showing signs of losing control like this? What will be his fate on this deserted road, full of unpredictable dangers? Let's follow closely the next developments of this dramatic story. The man being treated so unfairly and cruelly was Nathan Powell, a respected name in the federal legal community. In his 50s, he was a seasoned federal prosecutor, currently serving as chief of the Organized Crime Investigation and Prosecution Division of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Midwest. He was known for his integrity, impartiality, sharp intellect, and solid professional skills, having personally handled and brought to justice many large, complex cases involving notorious criminal gangs and high-ranking corrupt officials. That evening, he was on his way to the home of the city's mayor, Mr. Thompson, a close friend and important ally in the fight against crime, for an intimate, private dinner. He had just finished a very stressful and tiring day at the office, with long meetings and complicated case files to review. He drove his new Mercedes S-Class alone, without a driver or bodyguard, because he wanted some privacy to relax his mind after a stressful day at work. The suburban road he was on was a familiar shortcut that he often used to avoid traffic jams in the city center, but it was quite deserted and remote at night. He was absolutely sure that he had not violated any traffic laws. The speed limit was always kept within the allowed limit. The headlights were on properly. As he drove slowly, listening to the soothing jazz music playing on the car stereo, his smartphone suddenly rang. Looking at the screen, he saw that it was Mayor Thompson's number. He smiled slightly, then pressed the answer button. "Hello, old friend." Mayor Thompson's cheerful voice rang out from the other end of the line. "Where are you?" "Nathan, everyone is waiting for you at home to start the party." "What happened on the way that made you so late?" Nathan Powell calmly replied. "Hello, Mr. Mayor, I'm on my way. I'll be there in about 15-20 minutes. No problem." Meanwhile, in another corner of the deserted road, Officer Dale Harding, a member of the local patrol force, was on his night shift. But instead of doing his duty to protect the security and order of the people, he was lurking, choosing this deserted, less-traveled road to hunt and earn a little extra from unlucky drivers. Harding had a bad reputation in the police department. He was known to be arrogant, authoritarian, and a bully, and especially had extremely heavy prejudices, deep racial prejudices against people of color, especially those who drove luxury, expensive cars. He always thought that they got rich through illegal means. When Officer Harding saw Nathan Powell's shiny black Mercedes S-Class sedan slowly passing by, he immediately had the evil intention of stopping the car to make money. He didn't care if the driver had committed any violations. He just needed an excuse. He quickly turned on the hazard lights and blaring siren on his old patrol car, then sped up to chase Nathan's car. Officer Harding pulled up and signaled Nathan Powell to pull over. Once Nathan had safely stopped the car, Harding got out of the car with an arrogant look on his face and approached the driver's side window, his right hand still resting on the butt of the pistol slung at his hip. He asked Nathan Powell to show his vehicle registration and driver's license. Nathan, although feeling a little confused and indignant at being stopped for no reason, cooperated politely and properly. He took out his wallet and showed Harding his driver's license and vehicle registration. Officer Harding glanced at the papers, then began to make up false traffic violations in an attempt to create trouble and get a ticket. "You were speeding on this stretch of road," he said, his voice full of conviction, even though there were no clearly posted speed limit signs on the road. And Nathan Powell was absolutely certain he had not been speeding. And a moment later, he pointed to the back of Nathan's car and said, "It looks like one of your taillights is missing. That's a serious traffic violation." Nathan Powell remained surprisingly calm. He calmly explained that he had not been charged with a speeding violation, that his Mercedes had been serviced less than a week earlier, and that all the lights were in perfect working order, with no problems whatsoever. He even suggested that Harding could do a more thorough inspection. Officer Harding ignored Nathan's reasonable explanations. He didn't care if Nathan had committed a real crime or not. His main goal was money. He went straight to the point, without any hesitation or embarrassment. "Okay, I don't want to make things difficult for you. Your crime isn't that serious. $200. You pay the fine on the spot. I'll let you off this time. No need to make a ticket and cause trouble. Quick, simple. We're both happy. What do you think?" Nathan Powell's brows furrowed. He couldn't believe that a police officer could so brazenly demand a bribe in public. "Officer Harding," he said, his voice becoming a little stern, "let me reiterate. I have done nothing wrong to warrant paying you a fine. Furthermore, your request to pay the fine directly here without any intention of issuing a ticket is completely against the law. This behavior of yours, if discovered, could be considered corruption, accepting bribes." Nathan Powell's straightforward, correct, and knowledgeable words about the law made Officer Harding feel extremely surprised and angry. He was not used to being lectured like that, especially by a black man, someone who in his eyes was just scum of society without any value. He felt that his authority was being challenged, seriously disrespected. "What did you say? You dare say I'm corrupt?" Harding roared like a cornered animal, his face red with anger and shame at being hit in the heart. "Who the hell are you to talk to a police officer on duty like that? You black people always pretend to know the law so you can fight the police, to cover up your crimes." He began to spew out racist slurs without restraint, deliberately provoking and humiliating Nathan Powell. Nathan Powell tried to keep his composure, even though anger was starting to burn inside him. But his voice was now stern and authoritative. "Officer Harding, I ask you to maintain the proper demeanor of a law enforcement officer. Your actions and words right now have crossed the line of what is expected of a police officer. I will remember your badge number and will be reporting this incident to your superiors and even the City Police Oversight Board. Nathan Powell's threat to report him to his superiors was the final trigger, igniting Officer Harding's furious rage. He felt he was being challenged, severely humiliated by a savage he despised. He could not allow a savage to lecture him, to threaten him like that. "You dare threaten me again, you son of a bitch?" Harding shouted, his voice cracking with anger. Then, without a moment's thought or consideration for the consequences, he suddenly pulled his Glock 17 from the holster on his hip, cocked it, and pointed the cold, black, deadly barrel straight at Nathan Powell. "Get out of the car! Put your hands above your head! Hurry, or I'll blow your brains out!" Nathan Powell, although extremely surprised, shocked and angry at Officer Harding's reckless and out-of-control actions, but with his extensive experience in dealing with dangerous criminals and reckless people, he knew that the most important thing at this moment was not to provoke a man who was in a frenzy and had a weapon in his hand. He slowly and carefully opened the car door, then slowly stepped out as requested by Harding. As Nathan Powell stepped out of his car, Officer Harding gave him a hard jab with the butt of his rifle, sending him staggering and nearly falling. He then gave Nathan a hard kick in the back of the leg, sending him sprawling face down on the gravel, dirt, and jagged, sharp weeds of the road. He pressed his thick knee into Nathan's back, causing him to feel excruciating pain and struggle to breathe. Then he pressed the cold, gunpowder-smelling barrel of the rifle against the back of Nathan Powell's neck. "Let me see if you can still be stubborn and put on airs." "Nigger," Harding hissed through gritted teeth, his voice full of glee and triumph. He began to use his rough hands to search Nathan Powell's pockets, pretending to be looking for weapons or drugs. But in reality, his main purpose was to search for money, for anything of value that he could take. Just as Officer Harding was eagerly and passionately searching Nathan Powell, the new smartphone in Nathan's jacket pocket suddenly rang loudly. The ringtone was a famous classical symphony, melodious and elegant, a strange contrast to the violent and chaotic scene unfolding. Officer Harding jumped at the sudden ringing of his phone and cursed. He reached out to turn it off immediately, but when he glanced at the glowing screen of the phone, he was surprised to see a large, clear line of text. "Mayor Thompson is calling." Officer Harding froze for a moment. Mayor Thompson? Why was the mayor of the city calling this guy at this hour? He felt a little panicked, a vague anxiety creeping into his mind. But he tried to act tough, to act like he was fearless. "Who's calling you?" he demanded of Nathan. Nathan Powell, despite being pressed to the ground in pain and having difficulty breathing, still tried to stay calm, saying with difficulty, That is Mayor Thompson. I have an appointment to attend a dinner party at his private residence tonight." Officer Harding, although still filled with doubts, couldn't help but feel a little curious and a little vaguely afraid. He picked up Nathan's cell phone, hesitated for a moment, and finally decided to press the answer button and turn on the speakerphone so he could hear the conversation clearly. Mayor Thompson's familiar, authoritative voice immediately rang out from the other end of the phone, a little impatient and worried. "Nathan, old friend, where are you? Everyone at home is waiting for you so we can start the dinner party. Did something happen on the way that you're later than expected?" Nathan Powell tried to take a deep breath, then spoke with difficulty, his voice slightly broken. Mr. Mayor, I'm having a little trouble with a patrol officer named Harding on X Street, near the Pine Forest." Hearing that, Mayor Thompson's voice on the other end of the line suddenly became extremely serious, tense, and full of anger. "What? Which Officer Harding? What dares he do to you, Nathan? Are you okay? Give that bastard the phone right now and let him talk to me." Officer Harding's face turned ashen. He couldn't believe what he had just heard. Nathan? The mayor of the city was calling this black man Nathan so familiarly and asking to speak to him directly? A feeling of unease, a genuine fear began to invade his entire mind. Shaking and stuttering, Harding brought the phone to his mouth, his voice no longer full of aggression. "Hello, Mr. Mayor. I'm Officer Harding." "Harding!" Mayor Thompson's voice roared from the other end of the phone, a roar of rage and indignation and uncontrollable rage. "What the hell are you doing with federal prosecutor Nathan Powell? You asshole! Do you know who you just run into? You fool!" The words federal attorney struck Officer Harding like a thunderbolt. He stood frozen in place, the pistol in his hand threatening to fall to the ground. He looked at the black man who was slowly trying to sit up from the ground, the man he had just insulted, assaulted, and attempted to blackmail. A federal attorney? Impossible. That was impossible. Nathan Powell, with Mayor Thompson's tacit permission over the phone, slowly and painfully tried to sit up straight. He brushed the dirt off his expensive suit. His gaze on Officer Harding was no longer one of forbearance and endurance, but of a cold, intimidating majesty of a man holding the power of federal law in his hands. "Yes, Officer Harding," Nathan Powell said, his voice now regaining the steel, confidence, and authority of a top federal prosecutor. "I am Nathan Powell, currently Chief of the Organized Crime Investigation and Prosecution Division of the United States Attorney's Office. And you, Officer Harding, have just given me an unforgettable experience of how some local police officers are enforcing the law, an experience that is worth remembering and worth remembering." Officer Dale Harding was completely devastated. He could no longer maintain any composure or reason. He threw his pistol down on the ground, then knelt down in front of federal prosecutor Nathan Powell, crying and begging miserably and despicably, "Please, please, Mr. Prosecutor, I really don't know. I'm blind. I can't see Mount Tai. Please, please forgive me this once. I just had a few drinks before my shift. I couldn't control myself. Please don't ruin my life and career. I have a wife and 3 small children at home who are relying on my meager salary." Meanwhile, Mayor Thompson, after learning the seriousness of the situation through a phone call with Nathan Powell, immediately called the city's police chief Miller, requesting that both of them immediately go to the scene together to resolve the incident. Less than 15 minutes later, 2 luxurious black official cars with flashing emergency lights rushed to the scene at high speed. Mayor Thompson and Police Chief Miller, both with murderous faces, full of anger and anxiety, hurriedly got out of the cars. When he saw his close friend, federal prosecutor Nathan Powell, his clothes disheveled, covered in dirt, his face covered in a few small scratches, standing there with a stern expression, and Officer Dale Harding kneeling on the ground, crying bitterly, Mayor Thompson could no longer contain his anger. "Harding, you stupid destroyer! Do you know what a huge wrong have you just made?" Mayor Thompson yelled, pointing his finger at the trembling Officer Harding. Chief Miller's face was pale with shame, anger, and concern for the future of the police department he led. He walked quickly toward Officer Harding, his voice filled with disappointment and contempt. "Harding, you have disgraced the entire police force. You have betrayed your oath of honor as an officer. You are no longer worthy to wear this uniform." Despite having just been through a very dangerous situation, severely insulted and assaulted, federal prosecutor Nathan Powell still tried to maintain his composure, self-control, and professional demeanor as a person in the judicial sector. He recounted the entire course of events clearly, succinctly, without adding or omitting any details to Mayor Thompson and Police Chief Miller. "Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chief of Police," Nathan Powell said, his voice remaining calm, I do not want any favors or any deference in this matter. I only ask one thing, that this matter be investigated and handled in the strictest manner, according to the provisions of the law, so that it can be an example to others, so that no innocent citizen will ever again have to suffer the injustice and cruelty that I have just experienced. Chief Miller, without hesitation, immediately ordered the senior police officers who had just arrived with him to strip off their weapons, badges, radios, and handcuff Officer Dale Harding. Harding no longer dared to utter a single word of protest or plea. He could only bow his head and endure the situation, tears and snot running down his pale, despairing face. He knew that the police career he had worked so hard to build over the years was now completely over, gone up in smoke because of a moment of stupidity, loss of control, and his sick racial prejudice. He was escorted by his colleagues to the police station to serve the investigation and await appropriate disciplinary action. An urgent internal investigation, led by Chief Miller himself, was launched that very night. The detailed, complete, and uncontradicted testimony of U.S. Attorney Nathan Powell was the most important, irrefutable evidence. The dash cam mounted on Officer Harding's patrol car and other evidence, such as the recording of Mayor Thompson's call to Nathan Powell, were also carefully collected and analyzed by investigators. Officer Harding's personal and work history were also carefully reviewed, showing that he had been repeatedly complained about by citizens for his arrogant, authoritarian attitude, abuse of power, and similar racist behavior in the past, but for unknown reasons, all of those incidents were either lightly dismissed or were only disciplined at the level of reprimands and warnings that were not enough of a deterrent. With such clear and undeniable evidence, and with immense pressure from the federal prosecutor's office as well as the city mayor himself, the police department's disciplinary board had to hold an emergency meeting the very next day to review and make a final decision on Officer Dale Harding's case. The decision was made quickly and decisively. Officer Dale Harding was immediately and permanently dismissed from the police force for extremely serious violations of professional ethics, blatant abuse of power, corruption, bribery, and especially unacceptable racist attitudes and behavior towards citizens. In addition to being fired and losing all benefits and honor, Dale Harding could also face serious criminal charges if the federal prosecutor's office decides to formally prosecute the case. The case of Officer Dale Harding has caused a great shock throughout the entire police force of the city. It has become a stern warning, a painful lesson for all those who are or will intend to abuse power, have an arrogant attitude, or have discrimination against the people. Police Chief Miller, after this incident, had to publicly apologize to the U.S. Attorney Nathan Powell and the entire city. He also pledged to carry out a deep, strong, and comprehensive internal reform of the police department to clean up the team, remove bad apples, and rebuild the community's trust in law enforcement. For federal prosecutor Nathan Powell, although the incident was an extremely unpleasant, unforgettable, and dangerous experience, it also showed him more clearly than ever the painful problems and weaknesses that really exist in the law enforcement system that he and his colleagues are working day and night to improve, to make it better and fairer. The lesson from this dramatic and surprising story is clear and undeniable. Power, if not strictly controlled and monitored, can easily corrupt people, turning those who are supposed to protect the law into those who trample on the law. Discrimination, corruption, and arrogance are poisonous tumors that need to be resolutely cut out of the body of society. And sometimes, ironically and unexpectedly, justice comes through unexpected phone calls from people who no one can predict. What do you think about the immediate dismissal of Officer Dale Harding in this case? Is it enough to ensure justice for the victim and deter similar behavior in the future? Or is there a need for more severe sanctions, such as criminal prosecution, if you were U.S. Attorney Nathan Powell after the matter was resolved? Would you call for criminal prosecution of Officer Harding, or would his dismissal and loss of honor and career be an appropriate punishment? Does this story give you any hope or concern about the abuse of power and discrimination that still persists in today's society? And what do you think each of us, as ordinary citizens, can contribute to building a just, law-abiding society that does not tolerate such wrongdoing?